Arik Armstead went on the Jim Rome show, I think yesterday, and Jim Rome asked essentially, why do you and your teammates like Jimmy so much when the fans and media don't? And Arik thought it was a great question, answered it at length, and at the end said he's a great quarterback. He's a phenomenal quarterback. What do you think of Arik Armstead calling the soon-to-be former starting quarterback of this team a phenomenal quarterback?
It tells me a lot about Arik Armstead as far as a guy. He values people and he values personal relationships, and I think he's prioritizing those. I mean, I don't think we've seen Jimmy show on the field that he's a phenomenal quarterback, so I would push back on Arik's statement on that front. But I like the fact that he is backing his guy. To me, that tells you a lot about Jimmy and tells you a lot about Arik. And I think they're both positives. The fact that Jimmy did enough in the mind of this defensive lineman for him to back him to such a degree. And also for Armstead, that shows that he's kind of a loyal guy that, man, if you go to war with me, I've got your back going forward. And I think that makes me feel good about Arik and makes me feel good about Jimmy. As far as the accuracy of the statement, that's debatable.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to make fun of Arik Armstead's analysis. I disagree with it. And I don't know how he could even justify it. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo's never done he doesn't have any individual accolades other than winning, which is more a reflection of the team he's on.
He's went to war with this guy, in a football sense.
That's what I wanted to say. To me,
and he's seen him under pressure. He's seen him under freezing conditions. He's seen him under, everybody knows that he's not the guy. Maybe he's really impressed with how Jimmy kind of handled the whole media circus this year around Trey. But I think that's more about their relationship and less about Jimmy's play.
Sure, but what you said is that's his guy. Well, not anymore. Trey Lance is his guy. And what he said about Trey Lance is, time will tell. He's got a great skill set, yada, yada, yada. I think it doesn't do anyone favors for players to go on the record and call Jimmy Garoppolo a phenomenal quarterback. I think that speaks to what was happening in this locker room last year, where it's really hard for Trey Lance to take over because a lot of the players have this warped perception of what Jimmy Garoppolo is. They think of him like he's Joe Montana or something. And how can Trey Lance really compete with that?
Well, that's a good point. But what if Arik Armstead just looks at this, Grant, and says, Jimmy's out of a gig. Jimmy needs a new landing spot. I'm going to publicly support a guy that I think has done a lot and showed a lot of toughness and resilience and did a lot of things for the team. And I'm gonna be on the Jimmy team to try to get him whole, get him to a spot where he's the quarterback and he's making his future set. Maybe he looks at Jimmy and says, his future's not set. I have an opportunity on a national platform to help my guy, and I'm going to help him.
It's possible. I still think it speaks to a skepticism in the locker room towards Lance. Not that Lance can't be good. It's just that they feel that Jimmy is good. Jimmy's great. And I think Arik essentially still doesn't understand why they're changing quarterbacks. If Jimmy's phenomenal, you don't need a new quarterback. If Jimmy's great, you don't need a new quarterback. But they're going to a new quarterback, and they trust Kyle to a degree, although he's never won on this team with a quarterback other than Jimmy. And I think what you're seeing is the skepticism that some of this locker room is going to have when they watch. If he has if he loses game one, there might be whispers in the locker room. Explain to me why we got rid of Jimmy Garoppolo again, because we win with him. End of story. I think that's how a lot of these players feel.
I think you're onto something there. As far as I think they like Trey, but Trey's, whether the Niners want to admit and acknowledge it or the players want to acknowledge it, he's in a show me mode right now. It's great, all the talk and this and that, and he looks good, and the OTAs and look at this pass and that pass and this snapshot, that snapshot. Ultimately, he still has to do it, and I think that once he does it, there'll be tremendous support for him. But there's a big difference in the minds of the players between you did it and you're a great prospect. I think, he looks at Trey as a phenomenal maybe prospect, but he's got to prove it, where Jimmy in his mind has proven it.
And when you say prove it, do it. I mean, I think what that means.
Do it, stay healthy, produce, win. Yep.
Win. Because, again, Jimmy never went to a Pro Bowl. Jimmy never really produced. Jimmy just won. And I would say they won in spite of him, but Arik would disagree. A lot of players feel like, how can we win in spite of our quarterback? He's the most important position on the field. Baloney, can't do that. I think that's how they feel. So if Trey's out there making plays left and right and it just doesn't come together and the Niners lose, a lot of players are going to be like, what's this about? And it may not even be his fault, but I'm telling you, I think this is a very tough spot for Trey Lance. Even though he's got great players around him, he's got a skeptical locker room, and he better hit the ground running, which is hard to expect. He started 3 games since 2019. I'm very curious to see how
it's a bottom line business, man. Bottom line business. So it's just there's no getting around it either. No. Trey's a great prospect. Everybody likes him. They respect him, but he's got to do it. Jimmy's got his weaknesses. There's a reason they went for Trey, and I think the players are all aware of that. But at the same time, they're going to support a guy that they feel like showed his tremendous character at a number of different turns.
And I think everyone knows that stat that, Kyle Shanahan's win-loss record with Jimmy and his win-loss record with every other quarterback on this team. Everyone knows that. And I think there's a little bit of like, well, we trust Kyle and he's great, but a little nervous. He hasn't gotten, maybe Jimmy is the magic touch here. I think there's a little bit of that, especially for players that preceded Kyle, like Armstead.
And maybe he's talking up Jimmy to help Jimmy's market, and maybe that helps the 49ers.
Sure.
And we look at it as a support of Jimmy, but in maybe an indirect way to support John Lynch and his efforts to get something in return for Jimmy.
If that's the case, Armstead deserves a bonus.